What time is it where you are? And where are you listening from? If you enjoy long, slow science and the kind that helps you drift, then consider subscribing to this channel, Fusion Science Sleeps. Tonight, we'll begin a quiet exploration of something that governs almost everything, yet remains deeply misunderstood. What is time, and why do we give it a name? We begin with the most ordinary thing. You wake up. You glance at a clock. It says 7:42 a.m. You know you've overslept. You feel the pressure was of time. But what is it that you're late for? Is time something real, ticking forward like a train? Or is it just a shared agreement, a silent rhythm that we've all agreed to follow? Let's start. Not with physics, but with the very act of noticing change. A leaf falls from a tree. A shadow grows longer across the ground. Your tea cools down. These are all changes. And change is the most basic forms of time. Before clocks. Before calendars, before even words. Creatures noticed patterns, the rising of the sun, the coming of the rains, the shift from warmth to cold. If nothing changed, there would be no time, because time is felt through change, and yet that's not the full story. Let's step deeper. The primitive clockwork of nature, long before humanity marked hours, long before a second had a name, there were rhythms, biological ones, in a simple organism, like a cyanobacterium. There is a clock, an internal one, even in the dark, even sealed in a box. It keeps its rhythm. This is called a circadian rhythm, from Latin circa diem, about a day. Why does a cell know when it's day or night? Because it evolved in a world with patterns: sunrise, sunset, warmth, cold, light, dark. These cycles taught biology to expect things, and so even the simplest cell began to predict. Time began as expectation, time without numbers. Now imagine a world before numbers, before writing, before language. Even then, people felt time. Thikiu. Moon would grow, then shrink, then grow again. The sun would rise in a different spot, each day for inching across the horizon, until eventually the days would grow long and then short again. To ancient people, time wasn't linear, it was circular, a great wheel, turning, without end. There were no minutes, no deadlines, no dates on a calendar. Just rhythms of hunting, of planting, of bleeding, of dying. And so humans marked these cycles with bones, with stones, with stars. Thousands of years ago, people carved notches into mammoth bones, 28 of them. Some believe these were early moon calendars, tracking the days between bleeds. The invention of dates, to date something, means to say, this happened then. But when is then? Without clocks. Time was remembered through stories. After the Great Flood, before the White Mountain shook, during the season of bitter wind, early civilizations, like the Sumerians, tried to fix these stories into numbers. They watched the stars, noticed how certain constellations rose in the sky at certain times of year. They built ziggurats, great stepped temples, to align with these celestial rhythms. And from this came calendars, not just to track the stars, but to track power. A king would say, I began my reign in the 3rd year after the eclipse, or this tax was declared on the 2nd full moon of the wet season. Dates became a tool, a way to say, I control the times of your life. What is a second? Let's get smaller, much smaller. If time is made of moments, then what is the smallest moment that still counts? For most of human history, there were no seconds. Even hours were imprecise. In ancient Rome, a hora simply meant a division of daylight. So, in winter, an hour was shorter. In summer, it was longer. But then came the mechanical clock. In the 14th century, clockmakers began building gears and weights. That could turn at regular speeds. Now, on-time was no longer in the stars. It was in metal. A bell would ring every hour, later, every quarter hour. Still, the second did not truly exist for everyday people. It took pendulums to bring it closer. In 1656, Christian Huygens built the first pendulum clock. It swung at a steadily, each swing a marking time. He was able to measure minutes, even seconds, and with that, time became a machine. Why does time only go forward? Let's pause, because you may wonder, if time is just motion, can it move backwards? Why do we remember the past but not the future? Why does the milk spill but never unspill? This is called the arrow of time. In physics, many equations work in both directions. You can plug in time as positive or negative, and the math works, but the real world does not entropy, does not reverse. Heat flows from hot to cold, not the other way around. A broken glass stays broken. A burnt match cannot be unburned. Entropy is the increase of disorder, and with each second disorder increases. So time, as we feel it, is entropy's companion. Is time a dimension? You may have heard it before that time is the fourth dimension. In a sense, it is. Einstein showed us that time and space are not separate. They are woven together into what he called space-time. When something moves through space, it also moves through time. And when gravity bends space, it also bends time. This is why time moves slower near massive objects. A clock on a mountain ticks faster than a clock at sea level, and a clock near a black hole ticks incredibly slowly. This is not a theory, it has been measured. Time is not fixed. It flows differently in different places. So, what is a date? After all this, a date is a label, a human-made marker on the endless river of change. You might say, today is June 9th, 2025, but the Earth doesn't know that. The Sun doesn't know that. Atoms don't care. It is a useful fiction, a structure we've built to manage our lives, to mark events, to celebrate birthdays, to plan surgeries, to remember lost dates and bookmarks. But time continues, whether we mark it or not. As you listen, know that there is no need to hold on to each word. Let the information drift. Time is not only a force in the universe, it is also a force inside of you. In part 1, we drifted through how ancient people tracked time, how mechanical clocks shaped hours and minutes, and how Einstein revealed that time bends and stretches near gravity. But let us now drift inward to the biology of time and how your body, even when isolated from the world, still keeps time. Biological time, the clock inside. Every cell at this very moment, inside your brain, near a structure called the hypothalamus, is a tiny cluster of around 20,000 neurons. This is your suprachiasmatic nucleus. The SCN, it sits just above your optic chiasm. the place where your optic nerves cross. This little bundle was your master clock. It takes in signals from light and regulates your circadian rhythm. This rhythm, roughly 24 hours, controls your sleep-wake cycle. But not only that, it also governs body temperature, hormone release, metabolism, alertness, blood pressure. It's not just the brain. Every cell has a clock. Liver cells, heart cells, and even skin cells, and each one must keeps ticking. These clocks are made of genes and proteins, genes that produce proteins, which then shut the genes off and then fade. So, the genes activate again, a feedback loop taking about 24 hours. Again and again and again. This is your body's definition of time, and it doesn't require a watch. When time goes missing, if you take a human and place them in a cave, with no light, no clocks, no windows, they will still wake and sleep on a schedule. But something interesting happens. They begin to drift. Their internal day stretches from 24 hours to about 24.2 hours, sometimes longer. In 1962, French geologist Michel Siffre entered a cave for an experiment. He stayed underground for 2 months. No clocks, no natural light. His body shifted into its own rhythm. He slept, woke, ate, recorded data. And when he emerged, he was convinced only 30 days had passed, but 60 had gone by. His body had lost social time, but kept biological time. And this reveals something profound. There is not one time. There are layers of time. Time in the brain lets go. Deeper still, how does the brain actually sense time? Unlike sight or sound, there is no single organ for time. Instead, time perception is distributed. The cerebellum plays a role. So does the basal ganglia. The prefrontal cortex also helps. And neurotransmitters like dopamine influence it too. In general, the brain measures short durations using something like an internal metronome. But for longer durations, like minutes or hours, the brain relies more on memory. This is why time feels fast or slow. If nothing new happens, time feels fast. If a lot of new information is processed, time feels slow. This is why childhood feels long and adulthood feels like it rushes. Your first day of school was packed with novelty. Your brain recorded every detail, but your 30th Tuesday at work blurs into the others. Biologically, it was the same length. But mentally, it was shorter. This is called time compression. Ancient attempts to standardize time now let us return to civilization. To the attempt to standardize time. We spoke earlier of early star watchers, but now we drift to the invention of structured, official timekeeping. In Babylonia around 2000 BCE, they divided the day into 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of night. This gave rise to the base 60 system, sexagesimal, which still affects our modern clocks, 60 seconds, 60 minutes. In Egypt, sundials divided daylight into 12 parts, but again, since days are longer in summer and shorter in winter, their hours were uneven. It wasn't until the Greeks and later the Romans that efforts to create more regular timekeeping began. But the breakthrough came with the mechanical clock. In 1277, a large mechanical clock was installed in a church in Milan. By the 14th century, more cities had them, though they only rang the hours, not minutes. It took centuries to shrink time down. To the second, the pendulum clock in 1656, the quartz clock in 1927, and then the most precise clock yet, the atomic clock. The atomic clock and the modern second. Since 1967, the official definition of a second is tied to cesium-133 atoms. Specifically, a second is the duration of 9,192,631,170 cycles of radiation, corresponding to the transition between two hyperfine levels of the ground state of the cesium-133 atom, not a rotation of Earth, not a swing of a pendulum, but a quantum event inside a cesium atom. Why? Because Earth's rotation is not perfectly consistent. It slows down, slightly, due to tidal friction. So days are not always exactly 86,400 seconds long. Cesium atoms, however, are stable, reliable, predictable. Atomic clocks are now so precise that they would lose only 1 second in 30 million years. This is the time your smartphone syncs to. This is the time GPS satellites rely on. This is the time civilization now obeys GPS and time dilation. Let's pause again, because this introduces something strange. Your phone uses GPS to tell you where you are, but GPS is deeply linked to time. There are over 30 satellites orbiting Earth. Each has a precise atomic clock. They send signals with timestamps. Your phone compares the timing of these signals to triangulate your position. But here's the problem. Satellites are moving fast and are far from Earth, both of which will affect time. Thanks to special relativity, moving clocks run slower. And thanks to general relativity, clocks farther from gravity run faster. Combined, GPS satellites gain about 38 microseconds per day. That might sound tiny, but if uncorrected, GPS would drift by 10 kilometers per day. So, engineers must apply Einstein's equations to keep your map accurate. The theory of relativity is not just theory. It's how you find your way to the grocery store. Calendars and the human need to anchor time. We move now from seconds to days, to dates. The human mind needs structure. So early cultures invented calendars. In ancient Egypt, the calendar had 12 months of 30 days, plus 5 extra days. They observed the heliacal rising of the star Sirius, which coincided with the annual Nile flood in Mesoamerica. The Maya developed the long count calendar, tracking time in units of 20 days, 360-day years, and cycles of thousands of years. The Roman calendar, originally a lunar system, was reformed under Julius Caesar in 45 BCE into the Julian calendar. It added a leap day every 4 years, but it overcompensated by about 11 minutes per year. By the 1500s, this drift had added up. So in 1582, Pope Gregory XIII introduced the Gregorian calendar, the one we still use. It skipped 10 days and introduced a more precise leap rule. Leap years every 4 years, except years divisible by 100. Unless also divisible by 400. This keeps the calendar aligned with Earth's journey around the sun, and yet it's still a human invention. Dates are not found in nature. They are our attempt to grasp the river of change. As you listen, let this knowledge drift. Like sediment on a quiet riverbed, we've touched the biology of time, atomic seconds, relativistic corrections, and the human urge to name each day. And yet, if time exists so clearly in your biology, and in atomic vibrations, and in celestial rotations, then what about the rest of life? Do animals feel time? Do trees? Is time a human concept, or something more universal? Let's begin gently with the humble honeybee, a bee. You might think, simply flies out, finds flowers, returns. But in experiments, bees were trained to expect food at specific times of day, and they would arrive early and wait. If the feeder was scheduled at 10 a.m., they would begin appearing at 9:50, patiently anticipating. This is called time-place learning. Not only do they remember where something is, they remember when it was there. Their sense of time is real. Similarly, studies with pigeons show they can distinguish between intervals of time, pecking more when a certain number of seconds pass, rats too, and even goldfish, animals without language, still feel time. Even fruit flies in the lab, tiny, near mindless, display circadian behavior. If you shift the light-dark cycle, they adjust. But not instantly. Just like humans, they experience jet lag. This suggests that time is not a cultural artifact, it's biological, wired into life itself. Even plants keep time. If you place a sunflower in a dark room, it will still turn its head, slowly, across the day, as if following the sun. This movement is controlled by hormonal cycles linked to internal clocks. No vision required, no sun, only memory. So time in this way lives in chloroplasts, in hormones, in ion channels. It is woven into life. Now, drift further back, not to centuries or millennia, but to deep time. Time so slow, so vast. That human experience becomes meaningless. This is geologic time. Imagine a beach. Each grain of sand is a moment. Now imagine a single grain being placed every century. It would take eons to form a shoreline. The Earth is 4.54 billion years old, not million, billion. If you compressed the history of Earth into a single calendar year, the dinosaurs would appear around December 13th. They'd vanish on December 26th. Modern humans, we'd arrive in the last 30 minutes of December 31st, all of recorded history, the final 30 seconds before midnight. This is the scale of deep time. The first oceans formed around 4.4 billion years ago. Life began, simple microbial mats, around 3.5 billion years ago. Oxygen-producing cyanobacteria changed the atmosphere about 2.4 billion years ago, called the Great Oxidation Event. Multicellular life didn't emerge until 600 million years ago, and it wasn't until 250 million years ago that mammals began to diverge. Primates appeared only 60 million years ago. Homo sapiens, maybe 300,000 years ago. In deep time, we are barely here, but even that is short compared to cosmic time. Let us lift our gaze beyond Earth. The universe is estimated to be 13.8 billion years old. We know this from observations of the cosmic microwave background, the leftover radiation from the Big Bang. This radiation tells us that 13.8 billion years ago, all matter, space, and time expanded from a single hot, dense point. But even that is not the beginning of time, because asking what happened before is a question the current physics cannot fully answer. Time itself may have begun at the Big Bang. Stephen Hawking once said, "Time didn't exist before the Big Bang in the same way that there's nothing south of the South Pole. It is not that there was something before. It's that before it did not exist. In the early universe, time was not what it is now. The laws of physics were different. There may have been no separation between time and space, or no meaningful distinction between cause and effect. Time as we know it is emerged, over billions of years. Galaxies formed, stars were born, some exploded, supernovae, scattering heavier elements across space. Those elements, iron, calcium, carbon, eventually became planets. And on one such planet, time became aware of itself. Let's come back to now, to Earth, to how we try to measure this unfathomable sequence of events. We use tools, we use clocks, calendars, chronometers, ephemerides. But one tool in particular is the fossil record. Fossils are time capsules, not of time itself, but of moments in time. In layers of rock and strata, we find preserved remains, shells, bones, impressions. The deeper the layer, the older the fossil. But the record is not perfect. Many species left no trace. Erosion deletes layers. Pressure distorts bones. Still, we piece together timelines. The Cambrian explosion, 541 million years ago. The Permian extinction, 252 million years ago. The Chicxulub impact, 66 million years ago, ending the age of dinosaurs. We do not remember these events, but the Earth does. Each stone is a slow diary, written in minerals, read by those who wait long enough. Yet, for all these great measures, time remains difficult to hold. In language, we say once upon a time, or time stood still, or in the nick of time. We fill our lives with temporal metaphors. We spend time, waste time, kill time, lose time. We are always in time and yet never quite on time. Why? Because time never pauses. You cannot step outside of it. You cannot turn it off. You cannot touch it. You can only feel it, through change, through memory, through decay. Even now, as you lie still, time moves forward. Your cells divide. Your heart shifts its rhythm. Neurons fire. And somewhere, a star collapses. Let us go deeper, into the strange. In quantum mechanics, time behaves differently. While in classical physics, time is continuous. In quantum theory, some interpretations suggest time may be quantized. That is, perhaps time flows in indivisible units, the smallest possible slivers. Called Planck time, 1 unit of Planck time is about 5 or 39 c to 10 to 44 seconds. It is the time it takes light to travel 1 Planck length. This is unimaginably short, far shorter than anything we can observe. If time is discrete, not smooth, then what we experience as flow may simply be the result of flipping through cosmic frames, like the frames of a film reel, but this remains theoretical. Physics has not unified quantum mechanics and general relativity. There is no complete theory of time, only models and mysteries. So what is time? It is not just one thing, it is many things. It is rhythm in biology. It is decay in atoms. It is motion in space. It is memory in the mind. It is fiction in calendars. It is truth in entropy. It is invisible, yet governs all we do, and, though we try to carve it, with clocks, calendars, and dates, and it slips through, there is no way to stop it, or reverse it, or understand it fully. All we can do is witness it, quietly, patiently, and drift with it. As we are now doing, you don't need to follow every word. You don't need to remember the dates. You don't even need to understand each concept. Just know that you are floating inside one of the most mysterious forces in existence, and it will carry you, whether you notice or not. Let it. Even now, and as time carries you gently forward, let us pause for just a moment in the space between experience and memory, because time, to a human, is not just a series of measurements. It is a lived experience. Not everyone experiences times the same way. Let's begin with the mind. Inside your brain, time does not pass at a uniform rate. We've mentioned the roles of neurotransmitters like dopamine, but time perception is also shaped by attention, emotion, and even trauma. When something new happens, a car accident, a thrilling surprise, time appears to slow. Your brain takes in more detail. You process more per moment. This is called temporal dilation. The clock hasn't changed, but your experience of it has. On the other hand, during routine, during boredom, during repetition, time seems to vanish. Days. Blur, this is time compression. The feeling that a week or month or even year passed without leaving a mark. The elastic mind of time. Consider a child. To a child, a summer feels endless because nearly every experience is new. Every street, every scent, every rule, every pain is novel. Their brains store these events in rich detail. More information stored means more subjective time perceived. But to an adult, whose routines are established, whose days are predictable, the same summer feels like a flicker. As we age, time seems to speed up, but the seconds do not move faster. Only our encoding of those seconds changes. A busy mind in a novel environment slows time. A distracted mind in a routine environment erases it. Even fear can alter time perception. In high-stress situations, the brain's amygdala becomes active. This causes more vivid memories, which are later recalled as having lasted longer. And yet, during the moment itself, time may feel slow. It is not the world that changes. It is the internal clock, losing its rhythm. The cultural construction of time now. Let's travel not through ages, but across cultures, because the way we perceive, speak about, and measure time is deeply shaped by language and society. In English, we say, the future is ahead and the past is behind. Time is a linear path and we move forward through it. But in Aymara, a language spoken in the Andes, the metaphors are reversed. The future is behind because it is unknown. The past is in front because it can be seen. In Mandarin Chinese, speakers often describe time as up and down. The next month is a down month. Last month is up. In Hopi, a uto Aztecan. Language, there are no verb tenses in the traditional sense. Time is described not as past, present, future, but as manifested or unmanifested. What has happened, or is happening, is real. What is yet to happen is not discussed as if it already exists. This profoundly shapes how time is conceptualized. Some cultures operate with monochronic time, doing one thing at a time, scheduling punctuality. Others live in polychronic time, where multiple events overlap, and presence matters more than schedule. Western industrial societies typically value monochronic structures. Traditional, agrarian, or communal cultures often follow polychronic rhythms. In this way, time is not just physical or biological, it is social. We agree on calendars, we negotiate schedules, we invent holidays, we declare histories, and yet no two cultures carry time the same way. The mechanical grip of the clock. In the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution changed humanity's relationship to time again. Before factories, most people lived by solar time. Work began at sunrise. Meals followed light. Rest came with dusk. But factories needed precision, efficiency, shifts. So time had to be broken into mechanical units. This led to the creation of time zones. Before 1884, every city kept its own time, based on the sun's position overhead. Noon was when the sun was at its highest, but as railways connected towns, this caused confusion. A train could depart at 3:12 p.m. in one city and arrive at 3:04 p.m. in another. To resolve this, 24 time zones were proposed, one for each hour of the Earth's rotation. The International Meridian Conference, held in Washington, D.C., declared Greenwich, England as the prime meridian, longitude 0. Time zones were calculated east and west from this line. Thus Standard Time was born. And from that point onward, humans were bound not to the sun, but to the clock. You wake not with dawn, but with an alarm. You eat not when hungry, but when scheduled. Time became a discipline. Time and memory let us drift again into the inner world, where time is not just marked, but remembered. Memory is not a perfect archive. It is a reconstruction. Every time you remember an event, you recreate it. You do not open a drawer. You paint a picture, guided by emotion, context, and story. This makes memory fragile. Events can be remembered in the wrong order, or with missing pieces, or invented details. This also affects how we experience the passage of time. You may recall a traumatic event with vivid slowness. You may recall entire decades with blur and brevity. In neuropsychology, conditions like amnesia or Alzheimer's highlight this fragility. In anterograde amnesia, the ability to form new memories is impaired. The person is stuck in an ever-resetting now. Time for them does not advance, and in retrograde amnesia, past memories vanish. The person's timeline becomes fractured. In both cases, the sense of self, tied to memory across time, is deeply affected. We are creatures built on time, but also of time. Our identities are timelines interrupted only by forgetting. Philosophical time now. Let's pause one last time in thought, because beyond physics, biology, and history, there is philosophy. What is the nature of time? In ancient Greece, philosophers like Heraclitus believed in constant change. You cannot step in the same river twice, he said. To him, time was the flow of becoming. But Parmenides disagreed. He argued that change is an illusion, reality is unchanging, and time is deception. Centuries later, Augustine of Hippo wrote, "What then is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I want to explain it to someone, I do not know." He observed that the past no longer exists. The future does not yet exist, and the present has no duration. So is time. Real in modern philosophy, presentism holds that only the present is real. Eternalism argues that past, present, and future are equally real, like locations on a map. And growing block theory suggests that the past and present exist, but the future does not. Yet, no theory has won, because we experience time, but cannot observe it from outside. We live in time and so cannot escape it, to study it fully. You've now drifted through hours of knowledge, from ancient sundials to atomic oscillations, from the birth of galaxies to the tick of a watch, from the buzz of a bee to the rhythm of your own cells. You've heard how time is measured, how it is lived, how it is warped, and how it may not exist in the way we believe, and still, time continues without end, without pause, without explanation. Let it carry you now. No need to follow the facts. No need to remember the names. Only this gentle awareness when the time is passing, and you are here, floating in it, exactly where you need to be. So then, what happens at the edges of time? What happens when we try to imagine time stopping? Let's begin slowly, with the concept of the clock. Because the clock is more than a tool. It is a symbol, a representation of time's grip on human behavior. Clocks don't just tell us the hour. They tell us where we should be, what we are late for, what we've missed, what we must do next. And yet, there are moments when time appears to stop, not in reality, but in experience. These moments are called temporal discontinuities. When you fall into deep sleep, time vanishes, you may close your eyes and then open them 8 hours later, with no memory of the in-between. In anesthesia, the same thing happens. A complete blank. Subjectively, those hours did not happen. This reveals something curious. Time may be continuous, but consciousness of time is not. Time at the speed of light. Now, let's accelerate. What happens if you move at the speed of light? According to Einstein's theory of special relativity, as you move faster, time slows down, and for you, relative to a stationary observer. This has been tested. When precise atomic clocks are placed on airplanes and flown around the world, they return, slightly behind their stationary counterparts. But at the speed of light, something stranger occurs. A photon, a particle of light, experiences no time at all. From its own perspective, it is emitted and absorbed instantly. There is no before and after, only a single event. Of course, photons don't have minds, but mathematically, for them, time does not pass. This tells us that time is not an absolute. It is relative, dependent on speed and gravity and perspective. Time in a black hole now. We move deeper into the most extreme time distortion known to science. The black hole. A black hole is a region of space where gravity is so strong that nothing, and not even light, can escape. It is formed when a massive star collapses in on itself. The mass becomes compressed into a single point, a singularity, surrounded by a boundary called the event horizon. Here's what happens to time. Near this event horizon, from an outside observer's point of view, a clock falling into a black hole will tick, slower and slower, until it appears to freeze. This is not illusion, it's relativity. The gravitational pull is so intense that it slows down time dramatically. If you were falling in, you would not notice anything unusual. You would continue experiencing time normally, but to someone watching you fall, you would appear to stop, frozen in space. This is known as gravitational time dilation, and near a singularity, time may become meaningless. Space and time collapse into one another. The equations break down. We do not fully understand what happens inside a black hole, because current physics cannot handle infinity. It is one of the greatest unsolved problems in science. What is the nature of time, and at the very end, we don't know. The arrow of time revisited. Let us step back to something simpler, because even though we've seen time distort and pause and vanish, we still feel its direction. Why? Why does time move forward and not backward? This is called the arrow of time, the asymmetry between past and future. In physics, most fundamental laws are time symmetric. You can reverse time in the equations, and they still work. But in reality, broken glass does not reassemble. Smoke does not return to a cigarette. The dead do not return to life. The arrow of time is enforced by entropy. Entropy is the measure of disorder. And in a closed system, entropy always increases. This is the second law of thermodynamics. Think of a deck of cards. If it's neatly ordered, low entropy, shuffle it, and entropy increases. It is highly unlikely that further shuffling will bring it back to perfect. Order, not impossible, just astronomically improbable. The universe behaves the same way. From the highly ordered conditions of the Big Bang, entropy has increased ever since. Stars burn, heat dissipates, structures collapse, and this gives us direction. The past had lower entropy. The future will have more. That is why time flows. The end of time. But if entropy drives time, what happens at the end? Physicists have proposed several models for the fate of the universe. One of them is called the heat death. In this model, the universe expands forever. Stars die, black holes evaporate, galaxies drift apart until no new energy interactions occur. Everything reaches thermal equilibrium, a state of maximum entropy, no gradients, no motion, no change, no time. Because remember, if there is no change, there is no time. Time is experienced through difference, through before and after. In a dead universe, there is no before, no after, only stillness. This is sometimes called the Big Freeze. Other theories propose a Big Rip, where dark energy tears the universe apart, or a Big Crunch, where expansion reverses and the universe collapses. In each scenario, time behaves differently, but in all of them, the question remains, does time end, or does it simply become inaccessible? Time as an illusion. Let's pause again, because some scientists believe time may not be fundamental at all in quantum gravity research, especially in approaches like loop quantum gravity. Time does not appear as a fundamental variable. Instead, it emerges from relationships between things. Some physicists argue that what we call time is simply a convenient way to describe change. But change itself may be the true reality. In this view, the universe is a vast web of interacting elements, and time is the pattern that arises from their interplay. It is not a thing, it is a description, an illusion, like the horizon or color. This doesn't mean time is fake. It means it may not be basic. Just like temperature emerges from the motion of molecules, time may emerge from the motion of events, but not be present at the most fundamental level. This idea is controversial. It challenges everything we think. We know, but it is possible. Living with time, and so we return up to now, to the ticking of a second hand, the turning of a calendar page, the soft rhythm of your breath. We live in time, we measure it, we obey it, we try to control it, but we do not own it. We make appointments, we celebrate anniversaries, we dread deadlines, we mourn lost time, and all the while, time flows without concern. It does not speed up for joy. It does not slow down for grief. It does not wait. It is the one thing that passes, for rich and poor alike, for plants and planets, for atoms and galaxies. You cannot bargain with it. You cannot command it. You can only witness it, and maybe make peace with it. So what is time and date, really? They are not just mechanisms, not just math, not just minutes and months. They are reflections. Time is the echo of the universes. Unfolding, date, is our attempt to label that echo, to pin it down, to make it stay, but it never stays. Time slips. Between thoughts, between blinks, between heartbeats, and yet you are here in time with time of time. And as you rest, know this, you do not need to understand it. You only need to drift with it, let it wash over you, let it carry you forward, gently, quietly, unstoppably, exactly, and as it always has. As time continues to flow through you, let us now consider a modern question. Not what is time, but rather, how do we live inside it now? For most of human history, time was local. The sun above, the stars at night, the crow of a rooster, or the ring of a church bell. But in the 21st century, that time has become global, precise, synchronized to the fraction of a second. Because in our modern world, every second counts in banking, in navigation, in communication, in data transfer. Time now travels through networks. Let us drift now into that invisible architecture, Coordinated Universal Time, UTC, at the heart of all global timekeeping. Is UTC Coordinated Universal Time? It is the time standard used across the world. It does not observe daylight saving time. It does not change with the seasons. It is calculated using atomic clocks located in over 70 national laboratories worldwide. These clocks use the vibrations of atoms, usually cesium or rubidium, to measure time with extraordinary precision. The Bureau International des Poids, et Mesures BIPM in France, collects data from all of these clocks and publishes the official UTC every month. But there's more, because Earth's rotation is not perfectly regular. It wobbles, it slows slightly. It is influenced by tides, earthquakes, and even glacier melt. So to keep UTC in sync with Earth's actual day, we occasionally insert a leap second. Since 1972, leap seconds have been added 27 times. When a leap second is added, the clock reads 23:59:60 before ticking forward. This is one of the only moments when a minute contains 61 seconds. It is subtle, but vital. For precision systems, satellites, networks, and financial exchanges, even 1 second of drift can cause problems. Time in computers and networks. Now let us explore time as it lives in machines. Every computer, server, and smartphone has a system clock. This clock doesn't use gears or pendulums. It is typically a quartz crystal oscillator, a small component that vibrates at a steady frequency when voltage is applied. But these clocks are not perfect. They drift, gaining or losing seconds over time. To correct this, the computers connect to network time protocol servers. NTP.NTP is one of the oldest internet protocols still in use. It was introduced in 1985. Its job is to synchronize clocks across devices with millisecond accuracy. A server checks the time and then adjusts its own clock accordingly. Most modern devices check in with NTP servers every few hours or even minutes. This ensures that your phone, your laptop, your router are all keeping coordinated time. Billions of devices, one invisible rhythm. Time in global finance, in global finance. Time is not just important, it is everything. Consider this: every stock trade, every currency exchange, every market order is time-stamped. When billions of dollars move in, fractions of a second, who moved first matters. This is where high-frequency trading comes in. Firms invest in ultra-fast fiber optics and microwave transmission lines just to shave microseconds off their communication time. In 2010, the flash crash wiped $1 trillion from US stock markets. In under 5 minutes, it was largely caused by automated systems, moving too fast, out of sync. Since then, regulators have required precise time-stamping of all trades. In the European Union, financial institutions must time-stamp events within 100 microseconds. This requires synchronization with GPS-based atomic clocks. Yes, your investment account, your pension, your paycheck, all depend on machines obeying a shared clock. In the world of finance, time is literally money. Time in artificial intelligence and robotics now drift with me into something newer. What does time mean to a machine that learns? In artificial intelligence and robotics, timing governs everything. A self-driving car must detect a pedestrian, calculate distance, predict movement, and brake, all within milliseconds. In robotics, control loops operate in real time. Motors, sensors, and processors must update synchronously. Too slow and the robot stumbles, too fast and it wastes energy. In machine learning, time appears in temporal data, that is, data with a sequence, predicting the weather, analyzing heartbeats, interpreting speech. All of these require an understanding of what came before. A language model must remember previous words. A video recognition system must know what happened in the last frame. Without time, AI becomes blind to sequence, and yet machines do not feel time. They measure it, they obey it, but they do not experience it. They do not grow bored. They do not anticipate. They do not remember with emotion. For them, time is nothing but numbers. This raises a question: can true intelligence exist without time awareness? And if one day machines do feel time, what will it do to them? We do not know. Psychological time in a fast world return now to the human mind, because in the modern world, many people feel like time is speeding up. This is not physical, it is psychological. With constant notifications, fast content, quick answers, our attention is divided. We jump from task to task. We measure success by speed. We fill every silence with noise. This results in a phenomenon known as temporal compression. Days feel shorter. Years feel faster. Time seems to vanish. But this is not inevitable. When people engage in deep focus, or experience awe, or enter flow states, time slows down, not on the clock, but in the mind. This is why nature walks feel longer, why meditation feels timeless, why silence stretches time. The way we use attention shapes our experience of time, and that may be one of the only powers we have over it. Attempts to stop time. Humans have always tried to capture time, not just in clocks, but in art, in photographs, in film, in memory. Every snapshot is an attempt to freeze a moment, to say, this happened, this mattered, this was real. We build monuments, we write books, we record stories, all of it, in defiance of time's passing. But time cannot be stopped, only remembered or forgotten. Even the act of measuring time is a kind of resistance, a way of saying, I see you. I will not let you pass unnoticed. And yet, time moves. Anyway, unbothered, unimpressed, unmoved, the ethics of time. There is also a quiet truth. Not all people are granted the same time. Some live long, some live short, some are hurried, some are idle. In sociology, the concept of temporal inequality explores how time is distributed across class, race, gender, and geography. For example, a factory worker may spend 10 hours commuting and working, leaving little personal time. A wealthy executive may control their schedule entirely. Some people die young, from war, illness, poverty. Others live to 100, with comfort, care, and access, even in the same society. Time is not equal. Some people have time to rest, to learn, to reflect. Others must sell every hour, and in this way, time becomes a currency, unequally distributed, tightly controlled. There is no justice in the ticking of a clock, only the systems we build around it. And so to understand time is also to ask, who gets to use it freely? Who has too little of it? Who profits from your rush? So now, as we approach the quiet edge of this journey, let it all fall away. The clocks, the trades, the networks, the systems, none of them existed before us. None will remain long after us. Time too will, you cannot hold it. You cannot reason with it. You can only lie here and drift with it. Let the seconds pass. Let them go. They will go anyway. And so will. You are not behind, you are not early, you are here in this exact moment. As you were meant to be. Let the minutes fade. Let the thoughts blur. Let yourself float. Because you're in time now. And it is holding you. Now let us drift into the future. Not your personal future. Not your next appointment. But the future of time itself. Because even now, as we sleep, as we breathe, as we forget what day it is, scientists continue asking, could time be altered, reversed, controlled? Can we travel through it? Can we shape it? Let's begin with something small, something strange, a state of matter, known as the time crystal. Time crystals, a new phase of matter. In 2012, Nobel Prize-winning physicist Frank Wilczek proposed something remarkable. He wondered, if crystals repeat in space, could anything repeat in time? In normal crystals, like diamonds, quartz, or salt, atoms are arranged in repeating patterns. They are spatially periodic, but Wilczek imagined a material that would exhibit temporal periodicity. That is, it would move without energy input. It would oscillate in time, at regular intervals, even in its lowest energy state. This would violate traditional equilibrium physics. At first, the idea was considered impossible, but by 2016, researchers began building simulated systems that behaved like time crystals. Then, in 2021, a team of scientists from Google and Stanford announced they had created a real time crystal using a quantum computer. They used a line of qubits, the basics, units of quantum information, and pulsed them with lasers. The system settled into a pattern where the qubits flipped, at twice the interval of the driving force. It was stable, predictable, oscillating, with no energy lost. This wasn't perpetual motion. It wasn't a time machine, but it suggested that time symmetry could be broken. Just as spatial symmetry can, time, it seems, is not uniform everywhere, even at the quantum level. It may have phases. This doesn't mean we can travel through time, but it does mean that time behaves differently than we ever imagined. Simulation. Hypothesis, is time just a code? Now drift with me, not into physics, but into philosophy. Because some scientists, including Nick Bostrom and Elon Musk, have speculated that reality itself may be a simulation, a complex program. running in a computer, possibly created by a future civilization. In this view, time is not fundamental, it is coded, like frame rates in a video game. Just fast enough to create the illusion of flow, just smooth enough to seem real. Why consider this idea? Because some features of the universe, such as the discreteness of energy levels, the mathematical regularity of physical laws, the way randomness appears in quantum collapse. These might be explained if the universe were discretized, that is, broken into pixels, or time slices. Some versions of this theory propose that time is not continuous, but proceeds in clock cycles, just like a computer processor. Of course, this is speculative. There is no evidence that we live in a simulation, and there may never be. But the idea invites us to ask, what is time? If it can be rendered, is your life a string of frames? Are you being rendered right now? And if the simulation ended, would time end too? We do not know. But the question lingers. Time travel, a scientific possibility? Now we arrive at the oldest dream, the one humans have imagined, and since we first noticed shadows move. Can we go back, or forward, faster than we do now? In fiction, time travel is everywhere. In machines, in wormholes, in memory, but in science, it's more complicated. Let's begin with going forward. We already know that time slows down at high speeds. This is time dilation, as shown by Einstein. If you boarded a spaceship and traveled at 99.9% the speed of light and then returned, you would have aged less than everyone on Earth. You would have moved forward in time. This is not theory. It is reality. In fact, astronauts aboard the International Space Station experience a few milliseconds of time dilation. They age slightly less than people on the ground. So, forward time travel is possible. But what about going backward? Here, things get stranger. Einstein's theory allows for certain solutions, called closed time-like curves. These are paths through space-time that loop back on themselves. Some models of rotating black holes, Kerr black holes, theoretically allow such curves. Other theories, like wormholes, might connect distant points in space-time. But all of these are speculative. They rely on conditions that may not exist, or require exotic matter, with negative energy density, which has not been observed. And then there's the paradox. If you go back in time, what happens if you change something? The classic example is the grandfather paradox. You go back, you prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother. You are never born. So, who went back? One solution is the many worlds interpretation. Each time you make a change, the universe splits. You create a new timeline. This avoids contradiction, but creates an infinity of alternate realities. None of this has been observed. There is no experimental evidence for time travel, but physics does not rule it out completely. Not yet. The experience of timelessness. Now leave the theories behind. Let us return to the body, to the breath, to the moments when time seems to disappear. People report experiences of timelessness during meditation, extreme danger, intense grief, deep love, psychedelic states. In these moments, the sense of time passing vanishes. There is no before, no after, only now. Neurologically, this involves changes in the default mode network of the brain. Regions like the medial prefrontal cortex and posterior cingulate cortex become quiet. There is less self-referential thinking, less memory replay, less anticipation. Some describe it as being outside time. Religions and philosophies have long described this state. Mystics call it eternity. Buddhists call it no time. In flow theory, it is called absorption. You may have felt it, reading a book, watching waves, staring into the sky. Time vanishes, but not because it stops, because you stop noticing. This is perhaps the closest we come to freedom from time, not by escaping it, but by becoming still. And now, after this long drift, let yourself fall deeper. Let time continue. As you let go, the clocks will keep ticking, the stars will keep aging, the earth will keep turning. But you do not need to follow. You've listened. You've traveled from atomic vibrations to time crystals, to black holes, to memory, to silence, and now all that's left is stillness. You are not late. You are not early. You are here exactly in time. Exactly as you were meant to be. There is nowhere to go, and all the time in the universe to not go there. Sleep if you wish, drift if you like, or simply remain. Let time carry you, without asking it why. Before physics, before quartz oscillators, before even the naming of months, time was not measured. It was felt through hunger, through sunlight, through the scent of wet soil before rain. For most of human history, there were no minutes, no hours, no numbered years. Time was not linear. It was circular. It returned. Mythic time, the eternal circle. In ancient cultures across the world, time was often imagined as a cycle. The sun rose and returned. The moon grew and disappeared. The stars circled overhead. The animals migrated and returned again. This repetitive rhythm became the first clock, but it was not just practical, it was spiritual. In Hindu cosmology, time is divided into vast cycles called yugas. Each yuga lasts millions of years. There are 4: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. We are currently believed to be in the Kali Yuga, the last and most chaotic. After this age ends, the cycle will begin again, not linearly, but eternally. In Mayan mythology, time was similarly cyclical. Their calendar system included the long count, used to track vast eras, baktuns, each lasting 144,000 days. They believed the world had been created and destroyed multiple times. Each era had its own gods, its own rules, its own story. And when it ended, time reset. The role of ritual in time. In these early civilizations, rituals were how people participated in time. Planting festivals, harvest offerings, new moon prayers, solstice fires. These events were not just ceremonies. They were markers of rhythm. They helped people feel aligned with the greater cycles. In ancient Egypt, time was closely tied to the Nile River. Each year the river would flood, bringing fertile silt to the land. This flood was linked to the rising of the star Sirius, the dog star. Its reappearance in the dawn sky came just before the inundation. Egyptians marked this moment as the new year, the heavens and earth in sync. Their calendar included 12 months of 30 days, plus 5 extra days, days outside of time, used to celebrate the births of gods. In these myths, time was not mechanical. It was a being, a force, sometimes personified, sometimes feared. Gods. Of time in mythology, time is often given a face, a name, a mood. In Greek mythology, there are 2 major deities of time, Chronos and Kairos. Chronos is time as sequence, the ticking of moments, the slow march. He is often depicted as an old man with a scythe, a figure of inevitability. Kairos, by contrast, is the opportune moment, the perfect instant, a break in the rhythm. He is a young man, fleeting, with a lock of hair hanging over his forehead. You must catch him as he passes, eat or lose the moment. These two versions of time, endless flow, and perfect timing, exist together. In Norse mythology, time unfolds within Yggdrasil, the great world tree. Its roots and branches connect realms. At its base are the Norns, three women who weave fate: Urd, the past; Verdandi, the present; and Skuld, the future. They shape destiny, not by numbers but by thread, time as tapestry. In Buddhist tradition, time is an illusion. All things are impermanent. Clinging to time causes suffering. Moments arise and fall, and nothing remains. The path to liberation involves stepping outside of time, realizing that what we call past and future are constructs of the mind, calendars before clocks. Now let us return to the earth, to stone, to shadow. Some of the earliest timekeeping devices were not clocks, but monuments. At Stonehenge in England, the stones are aligned with the solstices. At dawn on the summer solstice, the sun rises directly over the heel stone. It's not a coincidence, it's a calendar. In Newgrange, Ireland, an ancient passage, tomb over 5,000 years old, the entrance corridor aligns with the winter solstice sunrise for only a few minutes each year. Light fills the chamber, then darkness returns. These structures did not measure minutes, they marked the turning points, the moments when the cycle began again. Calendars emerged from this need to understand repetition. In Babylon, priests observed the movements of stars and planets, tracking lunar cycles to create complex systems of prediction. Their sexagesimal, base 60 system influenced how we still divide hours and minutes. The Romans too struggled with calendars. Their early calendar had 10 months, leaving winter unaccounted for. Later reforms added January and February, and eventually led to the Julian calendar under Julius Caesar. This was a solar calendar with 365 days and a leap year every 4 years. But it wasn't perfect. By the 1500s, the calendar had drifted 10 days from the solar year. To correct this, Pope Gregory XIII introduced the Gregorian calendar in 1582. That calendar is the one used by most of the world today. It is a legacy of empire, of religion, of astronomy, and of the human need to name time. Sacred time versus ordinary time. In many spiritual traditions, there is a distinction between profane time and sacred. Ordinary time, is the ticking of days, work schedules, markets, aging. Sacred times is timeless. It is accessed through ritual, through prayer, through trance. In Christianity, the liturgical calendar marks sacred seasons: Advent, Lent, Easter. These are not just dates. They are times within time. The Jewish Sabbath, Shabbat, is another example. From Friday sunset to Saturday sunset, time is set apart. Ordinary labor is forbidden. A holy stillness descends. It is not just about rest, it is about stepping out of linear time. In Islam, the call to prayer echoes through the day, 5 times and at specific moments. The Hijri calendar is lunar. Months begin with the first visible crescent. Religious events drift through the seasons. They are not fixed to the solar year, but to the rhythm of the moon. In each case, time is sanctified. not because it is counted, but because it is remembered, observed, honored, eternal time, the afterlife and beyond. Let us drift now into the longest view. What happens when time ends? For many traditions, eternity is not the end of time, but a state beyond it. In Christianity, eternity is union with God. In the book of Revelation there is a line, "And there shall be time no longer," not meaning time disappears, but that divine time will begin. In Hinduism, the soul, the Atman, is reborn again and again, through cycles of karma. Only through moksha, liberation, is one freed from time. In Buddhism, time is also cyclical, but the goal is to extinguish desire and reach nirvana, a state beyond birth, beyond death, beyond time. In ancient Egypt, the dead journeyed through the duat, the underworld. They faced trials, questions, balances. If judged pure, they entered the field of reeds, a mirror of life on earth, but without pain, without decay, a realm outside decay. Outside entropy.time, as perfection, and even in modern secular life, and we still imagine eternity, in memory, in legacy, in digital archives, in the idea that something of us continues. We are beings who know we will end, and so we dream of time without ending. And now as this long drift through myth and meaning continues, you may begin to feel the weight of these centuries softening, the noise of calendars and rituals and solstices fading like shadows at dusk. You don't need to remember every name. You don't need to track every god. You don't need to understand every calendar. Just let the patterns wash over you. Let them fold into the rhythm of your own breath. You are part of this long, slow current, a moment within a moment, within a moment. And the ancient world is still humming quietly inside you. You are still here, still inside the rhythm, still wrapped in the soft fabric of time. But now let us leave behind calendars and gods and civilizations and step into something quieter, more primal, more biological. Let us ask, how does time feel to a creature without a clock? The animal sense of time, imagine a bird. It has no watch, no calendar, no understanding of years, but every spring it migrates. Every morning it sings. Every night it roosts. Somehow it knows. In the animal world, time is not measured by numbers. It is measured by rhythms, by cycles, by light, by change. Many animals operate according to circadian rhythms, biological clocks that cycle roughly every 24 hours. But some operate on longer scales. Circannual rhythms track seasonal changes, like hibernation or migration, or molting. For example, the bar-tailed godwit, a bird found in Alaska, flies over 11,000 kilometers non-stop to New Zealand in a journey lasting more than 8 days. It does this with no map, no pilot, no artificial sense of time, only instinct, only biology, only internal rhythm. Bees and time-place learning. Now consider the honeybee. In the 1920s, Austrian scientist Carl von Frisch discovered that bees could learn not only where to find food, but when to expect it. If food was placed at a specific location at 10 a.m. each day, bees would arrive early and wait. If the food were placed later in the day, they would adjust. This behavior is called time-place learning. It means the bee remembers not just the location of an event, but also the temporal context. It links events to time windows. This has also been observed in pigeons, rats, and primates, even creatures with no spoken language, can structure their behavior around anticipated intervals, which means time is not a human invention. It is a neural experience, a biological tool. Time perception in dogs and other mammals. You may have wondered, does your dog know how long you've been gone? Studies suggest that animals can distinguish between short, medium, and long intervals, especially if those intervals are tied to reward. For example, a dog left alone for 2 hours behaves differently than one left for 20 minutes. They become more excited. They anticipate your return with more intensity. But this does not mean they understand time like we do. They may not construct mental timelines. But they feel absence. They feel change. They feel rhythm. Their sense of time may be tied more to body states, hunger, thirst, fatigue, light, and yet, in their own way, they wait, and that waiting is time-episodic memory and mental time travel. Now let's return to the human mind, to your own perception, to how you remember. Because one of the things that makes humans unique is our ability to travel through time mentally. This is called episodic memory. It allows you to replay the past, to imagine the future, to create entire inner narratives that extend far beyond the present moment. You can recall what you ate for lunch yesterday. You can plan what to wear next week. You can regret or hope. This capacity is sometimes called mental time travel, and it is not shared equally with other animals. Some studies suggest that certain birds, like scrub jays, can remember where and when they hid food, but their abilities remain limited. Human memory, by contrast, is deeply autobiographical. You do not just remember facts, you remember how they felt. You remember being 7 years old, wearing a red sweater, hearing a certain song, smelling the bread in your grandmother's kitchen. Time becomes part of your identity. You are the timeline, the construction of memory, but memory is not perfect. Every time you remember something, you reconstruct it. You do not open a file. You repaint it, using pieces of context, emotion, suggestion, and so, your personal time can be edited. Memories shift. Moments are exaggerated. Dates are confused. Faces blend. This means your internal timeline is not fixed. It is fluid. Psychologists call this the reconstructive nature of memory. It is why eyewitness testimony can be unreliable. Why stories change over time. Why childhood feels longer than it was. The more meaning a moment carries, the more clearly it is recalled. The more repetition it endures, the more it erodes. This is also why trauma distorts time. For someone who experiences trauma, time may feel stuck, frozen, fragmented. Some moments play on loop. Others vanish completely. The trauma hijacks the brain's memory systems, altering how time is stored and how it is felt. Time in dreams, and now we drift into something even more elusive, the world of dreams. In dreams, time does not behave. A moment stretches, an hour collapses, you fall asleep, and live a whole lifetime in minutes. Studies show that time in dreams can vary wildly, but interestingly, when dreamers are asked to perform tasks, like counting to 10 in a lucid dream, their dream time roughly matches real time. This suggests that dream time is not purely imagined. It is anchored, loosely, to waking physiology. But the structure of time in dreams is non-linear. You may leap between events. You may experience scenes out of order. You may die, and still continue. This reflects the role of the default mode network. a brain system responsible for daydreaming, memory, and internal narratives. In dreams, the brain becomes a storyteller, free from clocks, free from calendars. It creates time by inventing it. It folds hours into seconds, it skips over logic, it edits history, and you accept it. Because in dreams, the flow of time is not questioned, only felt. Time in altered states let us drift even deeper. There are moments in waking life when time breaks, during meditation, during loss, during flow, during ecstasy. In these moments, time expands or vanishes. You may sit still for 5 minutes and feel eternity, or look up from your work and realize hours have vanished. This is because time is not just measured by clocks, it is shaped by attention. When attention is narrow and deep, time disappears. This is known as the flow state, described by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. In flow, the sense of self diminishes. The awareness of time evaporates. It is not time that stops. It is your awareness of time that pauses, and in that pause, there is peace. You are still here, still drifting, still in rhythm. Time has been many things: a god, a tool, a dream, a memory, a threat, a comfort, and still it continues, even now. As you listen, each word is a marker, a moment. You are not counting. You are not watching. You are simply being carried. Let that continue. Let time hold you now, softly, gently. You are not too late. You are not too early. You are exactly on time. As you lie here, still breathing softly, still surrounded by the rhythm of passing words, let us step further away from clocks, away from cities, away from thought, and return to the earth. Because the earth knows time. It holds it in stone, in trees, in rivers, in ice. It does not name it, but it records it. Let us begin with a glacier, glaciers and the slow march of ice. A glacier that moves, not quickly, not suddenly, but with patient inevitability. A river of ice, formed from snow that never melted, pressed under its own weight. Year after year, glaciers flow downhill due to gravity. Their movement can be as slow as a few centimeters per day, or as fast as tens of meters per day, depending on slope, temperature, and ice thickness. But to the human eye, they seem still, immobile, frozen in time. Yet over centuries, they carve valleys, expose rock, transport boulders. They reshape continents. In glacial ice, scientists drill ice cores, cylindrical samples that capture layers of snow compressed year by year. These layers trap air bubbles, and in those bubbles is ancient atmosphere. We can read the history of Earth's climate: carbon dioxide levels, volcanic ash, radioactive particles, going back hundreds of thousands of years. The Vostok ice core, taken from Antarctica, covers over 400,000 years of climate data. In these frozen archives, the Earth tells its story, not through words, but through layers, time as depth. Trees and the language of rings now drift toward the forest. Imagine the trunk of an old tree, solid, rooted, quiet. Inside, a spiral of rings. Each ring marks a year of growth. Wide rings mean good conditions. Narrow rings suggest drought, cold, or disease. This study is called dendrochronology, the science of dating trees by their rings. Some trees live for thousands of years. The bristlecone pine in the western United States can live over 5,000 years. There is one named Methuselah. whose exact location is kept secret. It sprouted before the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza, and it is still alive, still adding rings. Scientists can extract a core sample from these trees, a thin column of wood that preserves the full timeline without killing the tree. In this way, the tree remains living, even as its memory is studied. Trees, like glaciers, are timekeepers. They do not rush. They do not forget. They accumulate. Rivers and erosion. Now walk with me to the edge of a river. Watch the current. It moves fast, but changes the land slowly. A river wears away stone, carries sediment, builds new paths. Over millennia, it may shift its course entirely, leaving behind oxbow lakes, floodplains, canyons. The Grand Canyon, for example, was carved by the Colorado River. It is over 277 miles long, over a mile deep, and as much as 6 million years old. Each layer of rock in its wall represents a different era of geological time. The youngest layers at the top, the oldest near the riverbed, are nearly 2 billion years old. That means they formed when Earth itself was still young, before complex life, before animals, before plants. The river did not plan this, it did not rush, it only moved and moved and moved, and time moved with it. Volcanoes and cycles of eruption now step to the edge of heat. The Earth is not only carved by ice and water, it is reshaped by fire. Volcanoes operate on timescales we rarely see. Their eruptions may be separated by decades, or centuries, or even thousands of years. Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 CE, burying Pompeii. But it had been dormant for hundreds of years. Mount Tambora in Indonesia erupted in 1815. It was the most powerful eruption in recorded history, releasing so much ash and gas that it caused global cooling. The following year, 1816, became known as the year without a summer. Snow fell in June, crops failed. Famine spread. Volcanoes remind us that time is not always smooth. Sometimes it waits, and then erupts, like the Earth. Our own lives may hold long silences, followed by sudden change. Time is not always gentle, but it is always moving. Coral reefs and growth by layer now sink beneath the ocean. Coral reefs grow slowly. Most corals grow only a few millimeters to a few centimeters per year, but over centuries, they build entire underwater cities. Some coral reef systems, like the Great Barrier Reef, have existed for over 20 million years in various forms. Scientists study coral by slicing through their skeletons. Just like tree rings, corals leave growth bands. These bands reveal seasonal changes, ocean temperature, and even storm events. The coral's body becomes its calendar. But this timekeeping is fragile. Corals bleach when stressed. They die when waters warm. And so, their timeline ends. Nature's calendars can be stopped, not by time, but by us. Caves and the slow growth of stone now descend into the earth. Enter a cave, feel the chill, hear the drip, smell the mineral air, look above and below. You see stalactites and stalagmites, formed by the slow dripping of mineral-rich water. Each drop leaves behind calcite. Over hundreds or thousands of years, these delicate spires grow. Some are thousands of years old, a record of time. Built drip by drip, cave scientists, speleologists, study these formations for clues. Chemical analysis can reveal changes in rainfall, shifts in vegetation, even human activity. In these dark places, Time is not measured by motion, but by accumulation, by patience, by quiet. Deep-sea creatures and slow lives now drift to the deepest part of the ocean, where light does not reach, where pressure is immense, where life moves almost not at all. Some creatures here grow very slowly and live very long. The Greenland shark, for example, may live for over 400 years. One individual was dated to be born around 1620, before the invention of the steam engine, before the founding of most modern nations. It drifts silently, eating rarely, growing slowly, and yet it lives. There is also the quahog clam. One individual found in Iceland was over 500 years old. Its growth rings held the story of half a millennium, and then it was opened and died. Time, once destroyed, cannot be returned. It must be preserved as it is lived. Natural time and human perception, all of these examples, the glaciers, trees, caves, sharks, clams, volcanoes, they do not measure time, but they embody it. They do not watch clocks, but they are clocks, natural clocks, slow clocks, enduring clocks. And compared to them, we move quickly, we forget quickly, we age quickly, but perhaps we can learn from them, to be still, to grow slowly, to record, not in speed, but in as your life done is not a race, it is a ring in a tree, a drop in a cave, a stone worn smooth by the current. You are not behind. You are exactly where you are meant to be in time and of it. Let that thought stay with you now. You don't need to remember all the examples. You don't need to trace every system. You only need to know. Time is not always fast, and fast is not always better. Some things grow quietly, and in doing so, they endure. You are still here, drifting gently, held by the rhythm of these words, and as you rest, and let us now drift inward, into the deeply personal world of experienced time, because time does not feel the same to everyone, or at every stage of life. Though the seconds remain constant, our perception of those seconds can bend. Childhood, the stretch of early time to a child. Time moves slowly. An hour feels like forever. A school year, a lifetime. This is not imagination. It is rooted in neural development. Children are constantly learning. They are surrounded by novelty. Every room, every rule, every sound is new. The brain responds to novelty by encoding more information. When more data is stored, the brain interprets the duration as longer. So when a child remembers their first day at school, it feels enormous. But when they remember the 30th day, it fades. As we age, fewer things are new. Patterns settle. Surprises decrease, and so time seems to accelerate. It isn't that the clock is faster. It's that our brains are recording less detail. Life becomes compressed, not in reality, but in memory. Adolescence. Time as emotion. In adolescence, time becomes tied to emotion. Hormonal changes increase sensitivity. Everything feels bigger, sharper, more immediate. This is the age of waiting. Waiting to grow up. Waiting for independence. Waiting for a future you don't yet understand. Time becomes a tension, a thing to be conquered, but it is also the time of firsts. First love, first fear, first loss. These moments imprint deeply. They become anchors in the timeline of the self. Psychologists call this the reminiscence bump. the tendency of adults to recall more memories from their teens and early 20s than from other decades, because that period is full of firsts. And firsts stretch time. Adulthood. The speeding clock in adulthood, many people feel that time speeds up. Years pass in a blur. Weekdays blend. Summers feel shorter. This is partly due to routine jobs, errands, meals, sleep. When days are similar, the brain does not encode them richly, and when we look back, they seem to have passed quickly. This creates a paradox. While we may feel bored in the moment, we remember time as short. Time flies when nothing new happens, and yet adults also experience time scarcity. Not enough time to work, to rest, to parent, to think. The compression of the day is real. Emails, meetings, obligations. This creates stress, and stress that distorts time further. When rushed, we feel that time is slipping away. When overwhelmed, even a short task feels eternal. This is called temporal stress. The perception that one's available time does not match their required time, and it shapes how we live. Old age. Time as reflection in old age. Time slows again. Not in reality, but in attention. There is more looking back, more rereading the past, more narrating life as a whole. Elderly people often report that the days are long, but the years are short. They also tend to become more focused on emotional meaning. What matters? What remains? What was real? Some theories suggest that the slowing of time in old age is due to slower internal clocks, biological changes in processing speed, neural firing rates decrease, sensory input slows, but memory changes too. Short-term memory may fade, but long-term memory becomes richer, more reflective, more selective. There is also less urgency. Time becomes a gift, or a weight, or both. And in some ways, time becomes quieter. Grief and time. Then there is grief, the moment when time breaks. Grief fractures the timeline. There is before, there is after, and the present becomes suspended. Time may slow, stretch, stall. For some, a single week feels endless. For others, months pass in a fog. The brain enters a state of hyperfocus or detachment. Sleep is disturbed. Appetite shifts. Routines dissolve. This is not weakness. It is biology. Grief activates the anterior cingulate cortex and amygdala, regions tied to emotion and memory. Time becomes tangled with pain. Moments become triggers. Anniversaries become wounds. And yet the clock moves, even when we don't. Grief teaches us that time is not always healing, but it is always changing. And in that change, there is room to begin again. Depression. And the weight of time in depression, time often becomes unbearably slow. A day feels like a week. A task feels like an hour. Minutes drag. Studies show that people with depression underestimate how much time has passed. They report that time is crawling. This may be due to changes in the dopaminergic system, the brain's reward pathways. When dopamine is low, motivation decreases, attention narrows, pleasure fades, and time loses momentum. Nothing seems to change, and so time stops mattering, but this is not permanent. With care and help, the rhythm can return, the sun still rises, the brain can heal, and time can move again. Joy, flow, and timelessness. But time is not only a burden, it can also disappear in joy. During moments of deep focus, during creation, during play, time vanishes. This is called flow. In a flow state, there is no future, no past, only now. Time does not drag, nor does it fly. It simply ceases to be. The brain's prefrontal cortex becomes less active. Self-awareness fades. Attention narrows. Musicians report feeling carried. Writers lose track. Athletes enter the zone. This state is available to all, not just in peak performance, but in ordinary joy, in gardening, in conversation, in watching the rain, and when it happens, time becomes kindness. Attention and time distortion ultimately. Time is tied to attention. When you pay attention, time feels full. When you are distracted, time escapes. This is why mindfulness practices, and like meditation, focus so heavily on the present, because the present is the only time that can truly be lived. The past is memory. The future is projection. Only now is real. And yet, even now is slippery. It is a moving target, lasting only an instant. But in that instant, you are whole. You are not your regrets. You are not your plans. You are here, breathing, noticing, existing, exactly on time. You have now drifted through many lives, many ages, many minds. The child, the elder, the joyful, the grieving, the distracted, the present. Each one feels time differently, but each one is still part of time's stream. And so are you. You are not broken. You are not late. You are not running out. You are part of the current. You are the moment that is happening right now. And that is enough. Let the rest go. Let the hours be quiet. Let the seconds soften. You don't need to count them. You only need to feel them. As they pass, they will pass. And you will remain exactly in time. Still breathing. Still drifting, still wrapped in the fabric of time. And now, let us step gently into the world humans built, because we do not only live in time, we build with it. We embed it into stone, into music, into stories, into cities. Time becomes design, architecture as time made visible a building. Is more than shelter. It is a marker, a monument, a vessel for time. In ancient temples, in modern skyscrapers, in ruins reclaimed by moss, time is always there. Think of a cathedral, like Notre Dame in Paris. Its construction began in 1163 and wasn't fully completed for nearly 200 years. The builders knew they would never see it finished, and yet they carved every arch, laid every stone, tuned the acoustics. Why? Because time could be passed forward. Through design, many great structures were made this way. The Great Wall of China, Machu Picchu, the pyramids of Giza, the Taj Mahal, each stone, are placed by hands that knew their work would outlive them. Architecture becomes a form of temporal generosity. We build for the future, so the present may remember the past. Even ruins hold time. Each crack, each layer of soot, each vine wrapped around a column is a footnote in time's story. Cities and rhythms of human time now. Imagine a city. It moves fast, but underneath it holds patterns. Morning traffic, lunchtime crowds, evening lights, night silence. Cities are built around human rhythms. The working day, the weekend, the commute. The market urban planners use chronourbanism, the study of how time affects city life. They track patterns of light and dark, of noise and rest, of when people gather and when they vanish. Subways adjust to rush hour, streetlights respond to sunset. Delivery services optimize routes by time of day. Even the placement of parks follows the arc of the sun. Cities breathe, not with lungs, but with patterns, and every city has its own pulse. Tokyo ticks faster than Vienna. Cairo has a different rhythm than Copenhagen, but each one follows its own kind of clock. Music, time made audible now. Listen to silence, to rhythm, to the shape of sound, because music is made of time. It begins, it builds, it pauses, it ends. Without time, there is no melody, only noise. Music divides time into beats. Each beat is a moment, each pause is a breath. In Western classical music, time is measured by tempo, beats per minute. In a waltz, 3/4 time. In a march, 4/4. But in other cultures, rhythm behaves differently. In Indian classical music, tala refers to rhythmic cycles. They can be as short as 3 beats or as long as 108. In West African drumming, complex polyrhythms interweave, creating layers of time, fast and slow, together. Music is not just about notes, it is about when they happen. The brain processes rhythm in the basal ganglia, the same region involved in movement. This is why music makes us tap, sway, dance. It aligns us with time, and sometimes it suspends us. A long note, a sudden rest, a fading echo. These are moments when time becomes audible and then disappears again. Storytelling, time as structure. Now let's move into language, because stories are not just entertainment. They are time machines. They carry us backward. They propel us forward. They hold us still. Every story has a structure, a beginning, a middle, an end. Even when non-linear, there is still motion, memory, prediction, surprise. Stories mimic how we think. We remember in scenes. We imagine in sequences. This is why time is essential in narrative. Think of myths. In ancient epics like the Odyssey, the Mahabharata, the Epic of Gilgamesh, time is stretched. Heroes journey for decades. Gods exist outside of time. Human lives are brief but meaningful. In modern storytelling, time can be manipulated. Flashbacks, flash-forwards, parallel timelines. In literature, stream of consciousness blurs time completely. Writers like Virginia Woolf or James Joyce explore the inner clock, where one moment can hold 100 thoughts. Films do this too. In Inception, time slows within each dream layer. In Interstellar, time bends near a black hole. In Boyhood, time passes naturally, 12 years filmed in real time. Each one explores the edges of time perception, because stories don't just happen in time, they shape it. Ritual, time made sacred. Now step into ritual, a prayer, a fast, a meal, a candle. Rituals mark time, but they also suspend it. Think of Ramadan. Each day time is divided. Before dawn or eat, sunrise to sunset, fast. After sunset, break the fast. It is a daily rhythm, but it lasts a lunar month. Time is felt bodily. In Jewish tradition, the Sabbath begins at sunset on Friday, not midnight, not noon. But when the sun disappears, time is not abstract, it is visible. In Christianity, Lent marks 40 days of reflection. Each day is counted. Each Sunday is a pause. In Buddhism, time may be seen as non-linear. But monastic life is built around structured rituals. Morning chants, alms rounds, evening meditation. Each act becomes a unit of time, even in secular life. We create rituals, birthdays, anniversaries, graduations, memorials. They help us mark the unmarkable, to say, this mattered. This happened. This is now over. Rituals are where time becomes felt, silence and the edges of time, and now we arrive at silence, where time becomes most subtle, most intimate. In silence there is no motion, but time remains. Monasteries use silence to draw attention inward. Meditators use it to hear the passing of thoughts. Composers use rests to let music breathe. In John Cage's famous piece 4:33, the performer plays nothing. 3 movements, total silence. But the piece is not empty. It invites the listener to hear the sounds around them, the cough, the creak, the breath. It reminds us even silence has time, even stillness. Ticks, and in those ticks we find ourselves. Time in the designed world, from clocks on towers, to calendars on phones, to rhythm in design, time is everywhere. It is in the spacing of architecture, hallways that take 5 seconds to walk, windows that frame the morning sun. It is in the design of objects, a teapot that pours slowly, a bench placed to watch the sunset. It is in the layout of space, a museum that tells a story as you move. A garden that blooms in phases. Designers and architects call this temporal design. It asks, how long will this take? When will this be seen? What rhythm will this create? Because design is not only form, it is also duration. The experience of time is part of what is built, and when done well, it brings us peace. And so, as we float now in this gently designed hour, you may begin to feel the architecture of your own time, your breath, structured like a cathedral, your thoughts, winding like an old alley, your awareness pausing like a piece of music. Time is not just outside you. It is not just in clocks or calendars or cities. It is in how you move, how you rest, how you remember, and how you listen. Let the time you've spent here be slow, be wide, be full, not because of what you learned, but because of what you felt. You are not rushing, you are not behind, you are not counting, you are simply present. And that presence is your own gentle design. You're still here, still resting, still floating in the long, slow river of time. And now, let's listen more closely to how we speak about time, to how we record it, to how machines began to notice it. Because time does not live in numbers alone. It lives caught in language, in the ticking of gears, in the rhythm of code. Time in language, every language, carries time, not just through clocks, but through verbs. In English, we say, I walked, I walk, I will walk. Each form places the action in time, but not all languages use time the same way. In Mandarin Chinese, verbs are often tenseless. Context, or the use of particles, provides the time reference. In Hopi, a Uto-Aztecan language, there is no traditional tense system at all. Instead of saying something happened or will happen, Hopi distinguishes between what is manifested, real, observed, and what is unmanifested, inferred, anticipated. This reflects a different philosophy of time, less focused on sequence, more on certainty. In some Aboriginal Australian languages, like Kuuk-Thayore, time is described using cardinal directions, not left and right, but north and south, east and west. To say next year, one might say to the west. To refer to the past as to the east, because the sun rises in the east and sets in the west in this way. The language encodes time through space. It requires constant orientation, a grounded awareness of where you are and when you are. In language, time becomes habit, perspective, culture, and yet the need to mark before and after is universal, because without it, we cannot share memories or make promises or tell stories. Time lives in how we speak. The history of clocks, from shadows to springs, let us now walk forward into the world of measuring time, because even before language had written verbs, people were watching shadows. The earliest clocks were not machines. They were sundials, a stick in the ground, its shadow moving slowly across marked intervals. By 1500 BCE, Egyptians were using shadow clocks to divide the day. Later, water clocks were developed. A bowl come with a hole. Water dripped at a steady rate. The level of water, say, told the hour. The Greeks used a version called the clepsydra. It could time speeches in courts, but these were imperfect. They changed with temperature, with humidity, with the size of the hole. Then came mechanical clocks. By the 14th century, European towers began to feature large gears and escapements. No more shadows, no more drips. These clocks ticked steadily, not accurately by today's standards, but reliable enough for bells to ring the hour. By the 17th century, pendulum clocks improved accuracy dramatically. In 1656, Christian Huygens created the first reliable pendulum clock. It lost less than a minute per day, a huge advance by and Bourse. The 18th century, marine chronometers were built to solve the problem of longitude at sea, because knowing where you are requires knowing when you are. 1 degree of longitude corresponds to 4 minutes of time. To navigate accurately, you needed to know local time and Greenwich Mean Time. A ship's position depended on a clock in sea. This way, time became location, and clocks became tools of empire, tools of navigation, tools of war. Time was no longer local. It became universal. Quartz and atomic time. As technology improved, so did our clocks. In 1927, the first quartz clock was built. It used the vibration of a quartz crystal under electrical charge. Quartz vibrates at a predictable frequency, about 32,768 times per second. These vibrations are counted and converted into time. Quartz clocks became far more accurate than mechanical ones, losing only a few seconds per month, but we still wanted better, so in the 1950s, scientists turned to atoms. An atomic clock measures the vibrations of atoms, typically cesium-133. In 1967, the definition of the second was officially tied to the cesium atom. 1 second, Rush 9,192, 631,770 oscillations of a cesium-133 atom. These clocks are accurate to within a few billionths of a second. They are used to synchronize GPS, internet networks, financial systems, and scientific experiments. The most accurate atomic clocks today would lose only 1 second every 30 million years, And so, we now measure time by the behavior of atoms. Time has become quantum, digital systems and internal clocks. Now let us move inside the machine. Every computer you've ever used has a clock, not a ticking hand, but an oscillator. It beats, over and over, creating rhythm. This rhythm tells the machine when to perform a task, when to move to the next line of code, when to pause, when to send a signal. In a typical modern CPU, the clock speed is measured in gigahertz, billions of cycles per second. Each cycle is a tick. Each tick moves information. Faster clocks mean faster operations, but also more heat, more energy, more complexity. Digital clocks are not about time as humans experience it. They are about sequence, what comes first, what comes next, what must wait. Computers don't feel time, but they require it because without it, they have no order. And order. Is everything artificial intelligence and time now? Let us move one step further. Into systems that learn artificial intelligence does not perceive time. It does not age, it does not sleep, it does not forget. But it uses time. Machine learning systems train on temporal data, stock prices over months, sensor data over minutes, speech as sequences. Of sounds, they use time series analysis. They track cause and effect, they predict the next word, the next frame. The next step, time is a structure in their input, a tool. Some systems, like recurrent neural networks, RNNs, and transformers, are specifically designed to handle sequences. They don't experience time, but they rely on it. They learn from patterns that unfold, and their performance is judged in milliseconds. A delay is a failure, but they do not panic. They do not wait. They only compute. And in this way, they serve us, they extend our memory, they accelerate our predictions, they react faster than we can, but they do not know what it is to be in time. Because to be in time is to change, to feel, to anticipate, to lose, to wait, and machines do none of these, and so now, he said, as you rest, you've heard how time became language, how it was cast in stone, how it ticked into gears, how it vibrated in crystals, how it dances now in code. Time is everywhere, in our voices, in our tools, in our machines, and yet how it still flows, still beyond us, still ahead of us, still around us. You're not required to keep up. You're not behind. You're simply here, in the now, and now is enough. Let the words dissolve. Let the concepts fade. Let the rhythm soften. You are not late. You are not early. You are perfectly on time. Time to you still holds you. No need to rush. No need to wake. No need to understand everything. Let the flow continue. Let the words wash gently through you, because we are now floating at the very edges of time itself. Entropy, time's one way. Arrow begin again, right, with a cup of tea. You pour it, steam rises, the warmth spreads, but the heat does not return to the kettle. It does not gather itself and boil again. This is the second law of thermodynamics. Heat flows from hot to cold. Energy becomes less available to do work. This process is called entropy, the measure of disorder in a system. Entropy is why things break, why buildings decay, why stars burn out, and it's the best explanation we have for why time only moves forward. Most equations in physics can be run backward. They don't care if time flows left or right, but entropy gives us direction. An egg can crack, but it cannot uncrack. A fire burns, but does not rebuild itself from ash. The universe moves from low entropy to high entropy, from order to disorder, from potential to decay. It's a quiet, unstoppable drift. Entropy is the clock behind all clocks, the multiverse and temporal branching. Now let us go stranger still, because some theories in modern physics suggest that time may not be singular. In the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, every possible outcome of a quantum event actually occurs, but in a separate universe you choose tea, in another world and you chose coffee. You turn left, somewhere else. You turned right. Each decision, each randomness, branches the timeline, and so, instead of one arrow of time, there are infinitely many. A tree, not a line, and you are just one leaf. This idea is not proven. It may never be. But mathematically, for it fits, and it suggests that time is not absolute, but relative to paths taken. It raises new questions. Is there a version of you that never aged, that never forgot, that lived longer? And if so, what is this version of time? Just one possibility, among countless others perhaps, or perhaps this moment is the only one that matters. This branch, this leaf, this now. Closed. Time loops and paradoxes now spiral further, because some theoretical models in physics allow for closed time-like curves, paths through space-time, that loop back on themselves. Meaning, time could, in theory, return to where it started, like a wheel, not a line. In general relativity, under certain extreme conditions, such as near rotating black holes or within wormholes, equations allow for time travel. But these solutions require exotic matter, material with negative energy density, which we have not observed. Still, the math permits it. But what would happen if you traveled back in time? This leads to paradoxes. You visit the past. You prevent your own birth. So who went back? This is the grandfather paradox. To resolve it, physicists propose several solutions. Consistency constraints. You cannot change the past. Whatever you do, it already happened. Branching timelines. Your actions create a new universe, separate from your own. Temporal determinism. Time loops back in such a way that your future self caused your past self. None of these are proven, but they all suggest something profound. Time may not be fixed, but it may be self-consistent, a loop that holds itself in place, always returning, always true. Time and the edge of the universe now drift outward. To the largest scale imaginable, the entire universe, it began, we think, with the Big Bang around 13.8 billion years ago. Not an explosion in space, but an expansion of space. From a singularity, a point of infinite density, time itself emerged. Before that moment, there was no before, because time was not yet born. From that point onward, space expanded. Matter cooled, galaxies formed, stars ignited, and time ticked. But how will it end? There are several possibilities. The Big Freeze. The universe keeps expanding. Galaxies drift apart, stars burn out, black holes evaporate, all energy spreads thin, entropy reaches its maximum, no motion, no change, no time. The Big Crunch expansion reverses, the universe collapses inward, galaxies collide, temperatures rise, everything compresses to a single point, perhaps a new beginning. The Big Rip dark energy, the force accelerating expansion, becomes stronger. Galaxies are torn apart, Solar systems unravel, atoms split, even space-time is shredded. In all cases, time does not continue forever. It either stretches until it cannot be felt or contracts until it is destroyed. And in this we face something vast. Time has limits. Time without time, quantum gravity, but go deeper still. Because the union of quantum mechanics and general relativity, the holy grail of physics, has not been achieved, and in some approaches to quantum gravity, time disappears altogether. In loop quantum gravity, space is made of loops, tiny discrete units. Time is not fundamental. It emerges only when matter interacts. Without matter, there is no time. In this model, the universe is a frozen landscape of possibilities. Time flows only when an observer makes a measurement, only when there is change. This aligns with a famous idea by physicist Julian Barber. Time is nothing but change. If nothing changes, time does not exist. In this view, the universe is a collection of nows, snapshots, configurations. We perceive motion because we remember the last now, but each now it exists independently. No past, no future, only arrangement, time, as an illusion. Speculative futures of time now rest with the speculation, because if time is not fixed, what might our future relationship with it look like? Will we one day stop aging? Will we manipulate memory? Will we stretch perception? Pause thought. In some neuroscience labs, experiments with transcranial magnetic stimulation and deep brain interfaces show the potential to manipulate subjective time. Psychedelic therapy research shows altered states, where time expands or contracts, sometimes disappearing completely. Artificial intelligence may one day process time at such speed. That human history feels slow by comparison. Space travel at near light speeds could bring real-time dilation. A traveler may return, having aged days, while decades passed on Earth. Even digital simulations may create synthetic experiences of years, within minutes. And if quantum computing unlocks new physics, we may discover mechanisms for controlling entropy. Time itself could be shaped, but in all these futures, one truth remains. We are still here, still breathing, still experiencing. No matter what time becomes, we will feel it in our own way. And so now, you've floated through entropy, through paradoxes, through loops and endings, through quantum mystery. You've seen time bend, split, dissolve. You've held the idea of time at its edges, and you are still here, still drifting, still steady. No need to grasp it, no need to explain it, no need to measure it. You are part of it, it is part of you, and that is enough. Let your breath slow, let your mind soften, let your body sink. Time is not something to chase, it is something to accompany, and now it is accompanying you. You are still here, still resting, still floating in the quiet current of time. There is no rush, no destination, only drift. And now, let us explore how time moves through you, how it builds a self, a life, a memory, and how, in turn, you carry time, not as a clock, but as a story, memory and the formation of self you remember, but not everything, only fragments, a smell, a face, a summer. Memory is not a perfect recording. It is a construction, an echo, reassembled. In the brain, memory is not stored in one place. It is distributed, across the hippocampus, cortex, amygdala, basal ganglia. When you remember something, your brain reactivates a network of cells. That pattern is the memory, but each time you recall it, you change it. This is called reconsolidation. Memories are not fixed. They are living, fluid, and in this way your sense of self is also fluid. Who you are is who you remember being. The past lives in your mind, but it is always being edited. You are not a fixed point. You are a sequence, a film, not a photograph. And that film plays forward, frame by frame, moment by moment. Time makes the self possible. The aging body, a clock in every cell while memory tracks your past. Your body tracks time in another way. You age slowly, quietly, inevitably. Inside every cell is a biological clock. One of the most studied is the circadian clock, a 24-hour rhythm governed by the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the brain. This clock regulates sleep, hormone release, digestion, and temperature. But beyond daily cycles, there are longer clocks. Your DNA holds tiny end caps called telomeres. Each time a cell divides, the telomeres shorten. When they become too short, the cell stops dividing or dies. This is one reason why aging occurs. It is time. Built into your biology, other changes come too. Mitochondria lose efficiency. DNA accumulates damage. Proteins misfold. Inflammation rises. Each change is subtle, gradual, accumulating. There is no single cause of aging. It is an orchestra of slow decline. And yet, it is not always decay. Many cells renew. Some processes slow down to protect you. And memory, emotion, and wisdom can deepen. Aging is not a countdown. It is a transformation, a long, quiet shift and in this, you are not broken. You are evolving. Time and the human fear of endings, but still can we fear time, not the seconds, but the ending, the loss, the silence, the stop. This fear is ancient. In every culture, stories of time are also stories of death, of gods who create time and gods who take it away. In Greek mythology, Kronos is the god of time. He is often depicted devouring his own children. Time consumes all. In Hinduism, the god Shiva is both creator and destroyer, a cosmic dancer who moves in rhythms that end worlds. In Norse myth, Ragnarok is the end of time, followed by rebirth, and in modern secular thought, the ending is entropy. No myths, just physics. But in all these, the pattern is the same. Time begins, time flows, time ends, and we are caught within it. This fear of ending shapes much of what we do. We strive, we build, we remember, because we know it will not last. But perhaps there is no need to fight it, because what ends also gives shape to what was. A book is precious because it has a last page, a sunset, because it fades. You do not need to outlive time. You only need to inhabit it, fully, quietly, now. Time and legacy, leaving marks in the flow. If time will erase us, why do we leave things behind? Why do we write, paint, record, plant? Because humans are not just in time, they respond to it. We build cathedrals that outlast us. We leave carvings on cave walls. We send golden records into space. Legacy is time extended, not in the body, but in effect. A poem survives its author. A law shapes generations. A kindness echoes. Even a small act can ripple forward. This is how humans cheat time, not by stopping it, but by leaving footprints in its river. Legacy does not require fame. It requires intention. Your words, your work, your care, they shape what comes next. And in this way, you are never entirely lost. Letting go of time, peace in the present, but now let us return to the breath, to the body, to the moment, because not all wisdom is in the past, and not all joy is in the future. There is something sacred in simply being. This is not new. Many traditions have taught it. In Buddhism, mindfulness is the practice of present awareness, of letting go of time, and simply observing no past, no future, just breath. In Stoicism, time is not under your control. But your response, as Epictetus wrote, you cannot control external events. You can only control your mind. And in modern psychology, flow states occur when time disappears, when attention is complete. When action and awareness merge, you have felt it. In music, in art, in stillness, time fades, and only presence remains. This presence is not escape. It is clarity, and in that clarity is peace. You are not late. You are not behind. You are here, and here is timeless. Now rest in this idea. That time is not an enemy. It is not chasing you. It is not running out. It is moving with you. As you breathe, as you think, as you soften, you do not need to do more, or be more, or understand more. You are enough. In this moment, at this pace, in this now, let your body release, let your thoughts drift, let your breath deepen. You are not failing at time. You are part of it, and part of you is eternal. The flow continues. You are not lost, you are not late, you are simply here, still carried, charter, on the quiet current of time. Let the final rhythm begin, the soft winding through the galaxies, through patterns that have existed long before you. Opened your eyes, and will continue as long after you close them again, because time is not only a line, or a loop, or a branch. Sometimes, time is a rhythm. The rhythms of the cosmos look above you, to the sky, to the spinning earth, to the slow drifting moon, to the patient arcs of stars. The rotation of the earth defines a day, one full turn, 24 hours. Not because the earth intends to mark time, but because that's how long it takes for the sun to return to the same point in the sky. Our bodies have evolved with this rhythm. Our hormones, our energy, our moods, they rise and fall with light and darkness. The moon orbits Earth every 27.3 days. This lunar rhythm tugs at the ocean, creating tides, high tide, low tide, back again. For thousands of years, farmers, fishers, sailors, all lived by the moon's gentle pull. Seasons too are rhythmic, caused by Earth's tilted axis and its journey around the sun. Winter, spring, summer, fall. The world sleeps and wakes. Bears hibernate. Trees shed leaves. Humans light fires and mark calendars. Even the sun itself has a rhythm. Every 11 years, it goes through a cycle of magnetic activity. Sunspots rise, wane, then fall. And beyond that, the galaxy turns. The Milky Way rotates once every 225 million years. You are riding that turn. Though you cannot feel it, everything in the universe moves in rhythm, some fast, some slow, but all in time. Time echoes in light and shadow, even when you look at a star. You are looking at the past. Light takes time to travel. The sun, its light, is 8 minutes old. The closest star, 4 years. Some galaxies in the night sky. Their light began the journey billions of years ago. You are not seeing them as they are, but as they were. In this way, the sky is a record, not of place, but of time. Every photograph of space is a time machine, and every shadow cast on Earth is a marking of when the light came and where it could not reach. Light reveals time, and shadow confirms it. Together they draw the shape of now, fossils, rings, and ice. Time inside the Earth. Time is not only above us, it lives inside the Earth. Each rock layer is a chapter. Each fossil is a bookmark. The geologic timescale divides Earth's history into eons, eras, periods. Epochs. We live in the Holocene epoch, just 11,700 years old, a blink after the last ice age, but the Earth itself is 4.5 billion years old. We know this from radiometric dating, measuring the decay of isotopes in rocks, like uranium into lead. Tree rings tell time too. Each ring is 1 year. The thickness shows the climate. Wide, a good year; narrow, a drought. In polar ice cores, tiny bubbles trap ancient air, and with them, stories of volcanoes, of temperatures, of atmospheric shifts. The Earth records its own time, patiently, layer by layer, and it never forgets. Time in the mind of the observer. But now, return to yourself, to your own internal clock, to how you feel time, because time is not just measured in orbits or atomic ticks or sediment. It is measured in experience. Psychologically, time can stretch or shrink, depending on your attention. In fear, time feels slow. In boredom, it drags. In joy, it vanishes. A child feels a year as a lifetime. An elder feels a decade as a page. This is not illusion. It is biology. As you age, fewer new experiences are encoded, fewer novel memories, so time seems faster because less is recorded. Your days may be long, but your years are short. To slow time, researchers suggest pay attention, learn something new, change your path, because time is not only what happens, it's what you notice. Language and the metaphors of time. Even in speech we reveal our time bias. We say time is running out. As time goes on, spending time, losing time, saving time. We treat time like a currency, something to manage, protect, invest. But what if we didn't? What if time was not a budget, but a breeze? Something you walk with, not chase. Other cultures offer different metaphors. In some indigenous American languages, time is not a line, it is a circle. Events do not end, they return. In Malagasy, spoken in Madagascar, the future is behind you, because you cannot see it. The past is ahead because you can. A reverse perspective that still fits, because metaphors of time shape how we live, and the way we speak of time reveals how we relate to life. The art of slowness in a world obsessed with speed. There is power in stillness. Movements like slow food, slow travel, and slow science remind us not everything must be rushed. To slow down is not to fail, it is to feel. A walk without a destination, a conversation without a goal, a study without a deadline. Slowness invites detail, appreciation, presence. In Japanese culture, the word ma-jan refers to the space between things, the pause, the silence, the breath. It is not emptiness, but potential. In music, the silence between notes is part of the rhythm. In speech, the pause is part of the meaning, and in life, The stillness is part of the experience. You do not need to be always moving. Even the earth and rests, even the moons wanes, even the stars die. And yet they are beautiful. So are you. Time, without end, you've now floated through the science of time. From atoms to galaxies, from clocks to consciousness, from memory to metaphor, but still, time does not end because it never truly began, and it does not truly stop even after the final moment. Another may follow, even when the last tick sounds. There may be echoes, and even if all else fades, what you were here, in this now, in this breath, in this listening, and that is enough. There is nothing more to chase, nothing to grasp, nothing to conclude. Let your thoughts slow, let your mind empty, let the current hold you. Time is not behind you or ahead of you. It is beside you, quiet, steady, endless. There is nothing more to say, and so we say nothing, just this stillness and time.